Hi, it's Tanzania Huff, and I'm gonna talk about my final manifesto. The first question it says my why, and I feel like my why when it comes to teaching is simply spending time with my kids and making them feel at home even though they're not at home. So I feel like my why is being able to reach a student. It might not be every year, it might not be the whole class, but I feel like I have accomplished something when I at least reach one of my students. So I feel like my why is making my students feel at home or welcome, because we honestly don't know what a kid goes through when they leave those doors every day, or when they're coming from home or wherever they're coming from every day. So I feel like my why is just giving my students a safe place, or anybody a safe place, even if I touch one kid. And I feel like anti-bias education is important to me because, like I said, I feel like we don't know what these students go through when they're not with us or when they're away from school. So I feel like when we're able to give them the same education that everybody else deserves and earned, then I feel like that's when we show them that they matter, or what we tell them is for their best interest. And then the second question says, how will I commit to doing to promoting equity and challenging biases? I just want my kids to feel welcome and feel like they're home or they're safe in my presence. So this year I've incorporated, even though I don't have any blind students in my class, last year I did. So this year I made it my business to have books, notebooks, a little stand in my room that has Braille, and to teach my students now about Braille, because they might go to the store with their parents and notice that on the wall by the bathroom there's Braille for people that is blind. So I just want to be able to incorporate things in my room that will reach each student, whether I have it that year or not. And I've also added more books that isn't singled around just white students or white people or brown students. I wanted to be able to reach all students in different backgrounds. And something else I wanted to incorporate, simply for my own personal experience, I wanted to add books about things or families that don't look like mine. And for instance, maybe they have two mothers, or maybe they have two fathers, but I felt like kindergarten was too young for it. And I also don't want to have a student to go say that I introduced that to them. So that's something I didn't put in my room, but I also wanted to make sure that they know that they're all welcomed here and welcomed in my room. So a big thing that I was focused on this year was adding the Braille for students that I might get that are blind, and adding books that aren't just with white kids or just aren't with brown kids or whatever. I wanted to make sure I had books to reach all kids. Or even I have books now with Spanish in them, because I've noticed that our numbers for for Spanish students in our district has increased. So I wanted to make sure I have things in English and in Spanish. And I feel like my perspective has changed since week one, is because it made me realize that even though we don't single-handedly point out biases, it's around us every day. And even if we feel like we're not being biased, sometimes we are, and it's not even intentionally. But I feel like this class has made me realize to like slow down, take my time, and actually be able to look at other people's point of view, even take a moment to look at my actions to see if there's something I can change or not to come off as bias. And I feel like on a bias that I uncovered within myself and how I addressed it is, honestly, this year I have a kid that's getting pullouts in my room, and he's in a wheelchair. And typically when you think of people in a wheelchair, you feel like you'd have to do everything for them simply because they're bind to their wheelchair. But I get him out of his wheelchair and he just start crawling around. He wants to play. He throws balls. He's able to write, but it's not clear, of course. But like, he's able to be mobile out without his chair. And I feel like I was biased simply because I thought, he's in a wheelchair, I'm gonna have to do everything, or he's not gonna be able to do nothing because he's confined to his chair. But his mom was like, I'm okay with you taking him out of his chair because at home he's out of his chair. So this year made me realize, it's just because of how they look, don't try to pinpoint them or make them feel less than capable. So I am glad about that, being uncovered within myself. And I feel like having an inclusive anti-bias classroom how it looks to me is pretty much having a student-centered classroom. This year I also put my teacher table in the middle of the room instead of having it at the front of the room, because I wanted the classroom to have more tables for students so it can feel like they have more say so in my room. I can't figure out the word I want to say, but I feel like I wanted them to feel more at home and more that they matter, instead of me being like the center or me being at the front like I'm head in charge because my table's at the front. So I wanted my room this year to be more student centered. Sometimes when it's time to make new centers, I give them a say so, like what do you want to see more of? Do you want to see more of counting? Do you want to see more of puzzles? Like I try to make sure I give them the feeling of them being able to have a kind of say so as well. And I feel like, how will my students experience belonging, voice, and critical thinking? Like I said just a few minutes ago, I feel like giving them the opportunity to also have a input on what we do next or how we do it next. I feel like that lets them feel heard, because sometimes it's always what I say go, 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 or what mom says that's end all be all. And I don't want them to feel like they're just a puppet, so they're going to do everything I say or whatever. So I also want to make sure that even though I'm giving them the option or the opportunity to say how they want to do this activity, I also want them to know that we're still meeting the standards. We're still doing what is expected. But this time, instead of doing a drum, we're going to use puzzles. And I just feel like when it comes to biases and making sure students feel seen and heard, the foundation is creating that safe space. And that is my goal, to reach students every year, even if it's one or two, but also creating a safe place, because I can't control what's at home or what's outside of school when school is over at 3:30, but I want them to feel safe in Miss T's classroom. And that's my video. I hope you have a great year. Thank you.